Hidden Mysteries. ETs, Ancient Mystery Schools, and Ascension. Joshua David Stone, Ph.D. Introduction. As it has become clear to more and more people that humans are not the only intelligent beings in God's infinite creation, the need has arisen for an overview of the extraterrestrial civilizations that are currently contacting Earth. I have attempted to provide that, describing each civilization, along with its beliefs, characteristics, and reasons for being here. It is also time for widespread awareness of information that is both ancient and earthly. Many people are unfamiliar with the profound but hidden spiritual teachings of the Essenes, the Kahunas of Hawaii, Pan and the Nature Kingdom, the Angelic Kingdom, the Vedas and Upanishads, the Kabbalah, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the Egyptian mysteries, and the Keys of Enoch, even though they are some of the most profound spiritual teachings that exist on this beloved planet. It is my belief that a well-rounded study of all the world's religions, mystery schools, and saints, and masters will accelerate your progress on the path toward self-realization. All in all, the contents of this book are guaranteed to expand your consciousness and change your perception of reality. Namaste. Joshua David Stone. Part 1. Extraterrestrial activity in this universe. 1. Extraterrestrials and other governmental cover-ups. 95% of all extraterrestrials visiting our planet are of a positive nature. Vimus. During the past 5 years I have developed an interest in understanding the nature and extent of extraterrestrial involvement with planet Earth over the course of history. 1,000 books would probably not cover the topic, but I will attempt to provide a brief overview of the subject, as I find it a curious phenomenon that a great many very devoted and spiritual people have very little knowledge about extraterrestrial involvement on Earth. First of all, God's infinite universe is filled with life. It is the height of egotism to think that humans are the only life form to exist. Extraterrestrials have been visiting Earth since the beginning of time. There were the electrical wars in pre-Lemurian times, and later, in Atlantis and Egypt, extraterrestrials visited in great numbers. In Atlantis they helped with crystal technologies and with the building of the Great Crystal, which was the power source for the entire civilization of Atlantis. Extraterrestrials have come from our galaxy as well as from distant galaxies. It is important at this point to say that I believe, based on the guidance I have received, that 95% of all extraterrestrial contact with the humans is of a positive nature. Most of the civilizations are far beyond humanity on technological and spiritual levels. One of the basic laws they follow is that of respecting the free choice of humans and never interfering unless they have been asked for help. One of the reasons there have been so many sightings of UFOs in recent years is that the inhabitants of Earth have moved into a fourth-dimensional consciousness, and the planet has moved into sacred status. These are system-wide events. Each of the planets of this solar system could be likened to a chakra of the Sun or of the being that ensouls the solar system, Helios. When one chakra goes through a major transformation, it affects all the other chakras. The extraterrestrials are aware of this transformation the Earth is going through and are very interested in watching it and in helping humanity to move into the new age. Many of the great advancements in Earth's past evolution have occurred because of extraterrestrial help. One important thing to understand is that not all extraterrestrials have a human appearance. This particular kind of physical body is called the Adam-Kadmon type. There are many other types of bodies that God has created. Also, let it be remembered that in past lives when humans have incarnated on other planets, they have inhabited some of these bodies themselves. Humans need to get beyond their egotistical attachment to this particular form and realize that humanity is part of a galactic, universal, and cosmic family of intelligent life forms, and most of them are far more advanced than this civilization. One of the reasons extraterrestrials are not more overt in their visits to Earth, why they don't just make a landing on the White House lawn in full public view, is that Earthlings have been too warlike. Despite technological advancements, Earth has been a spiritually backward planet. the negative extraterrestrials and the Dark Brotherhood. This brings me to the subject of the negative extraterrestrials. As I have already mentioned, at least 95% of all the extraterrestrial involvement on this planet is of a very positive nature. The 5% that is negative, though, is very negative. It is part of my purpose in writing this chapter to make you aware of what is actually going on behind the scenes. The information in this chapter has been confirmed over and over again by both earthly and spiritual sources. Some of the information might even shock you. However, I ask you to keep reading and to keep an open mind, for I believe it is absolutely imperative that the people of the United States and of the world wake up. Negative extraterrestrials were involved in the fall of Atlantis, and they have been trying to control this planet and its people since the beginning of time. In God's infinite universe there are always two forces: those who serve the law of one and those who serve more egotistical, selfish, fear-based principles. This is true for inhabitants of Earth. It is true for extraterrestrials. By becoming aware of these egotistical factions, humans are less likely to be controlled by them. If you are aware of what is really happening, you can become even more empowered than you already are. You cannot solve a problem until you know what the problem is. The problem, in its essence, probably goes back to the Dark Brotherhood. The Dark Brotherhood is an organization much like the Great White Brotherhood of the spiritual hierarchy, except that these beings are working for a plan that is antithetical to God's divine plan. Both spiritually and on the material plane, these beings operate according to a plan that serves selfish interests rather than being for the good of everyone. This dark force is nothing to fear as long as you own your power and don't walk around on automatic pilot. Then they cannot affect you or harm you in any way. The problem is that a great many souls on this planet don't own their power and aren't attuned spiritually. They take drugs or drink too much alcohol or don't realize who they are and why they are here. Their lives are focused on hedonism and materialism, and all these things leave them vulnerable to the influences of dark forces. The negative extraterrestrials are obviously influenced by this dark, separative, egotistical, fear-based part of themselves. They have evolved technologically, which is obvious from their spacecraft, but they have not evolved spiritually. They are forcing their will upon the people of planet Earth. They are breaking what Star Trek calls the Prime Directive: non-interference and respect for free choice. The secret government. It is necessary to describe another group that continues to play a pivotal role in this drama, a group of men on this planet who make up the secret government, or the Illuminati. There is a group of men who, because of their lack of attunement to their own souls, have, in a sense, been taken over by the Dark Brotherhood. These men have been overcome by selfishness, greed, and power, and they are attempting to control the United States and the world to suit their own deluded, materialistic values. These men have no respect for the United States government or any other government on this planet. Their basic game is to control the world in order to serve their own interests and values, which are clearly selfish to the core. There is an occasional scandal when they are caught, but the world as a whole does not realize the extent of their power and ruthlessness. Some of the shocking activities attributable to this group are the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the assassination of Robert Kennedy, Watergate, Contragate, Iraqgate, the savings and loan debacle, the total control of the banking system, the control of the CIA, and the control of most of the presidents and governments of the United States. The group has financed a great many of their illegal projects through the CIA by selling drugs. This secret government is known by many names, some of which are the Illuminati, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Olympians. They are, in essence, representatives or instruments of the Dark Brotherhood on Earth. A lot of these men have enormous financial wealth and hold positions of great political power. It is time for the American people to wake up, reclaim their power and take back their government. The secret government has perpetrated the greatest cover-up in the history of this planet. The most mind-boggling thing of all is that they have been, for the most part, successful. The modern history of extraterrestrial presence. Awareness of extraterrestrials began in 1936 when Nazi Germany recovered a crashed UFO. They had their top scientists working to copy and understand its technology. When the Allied forces invaded Germany in 1945, this entire project and its technology were discovered, and it sent shockwaves through the United States government. In the 1940s there was a great wave of extraterrestrial activity. The single most important event was probably the Roswell crash, which occurred on July 2, 1947, near Roswell, New Mexico. A UFO crashed and the dead bodies of 4 aliens were found. The corpses were of a smallish size, with large heads, and the beings were basically reptilian in appearance. This, of course, was an astounding event. Between 1947 and 1952, the United States discovery of a large number of human body parts stored within both of these vehicles. This was coded as ultra top secret because of the perceived panic that might occur if the information leaked out to the general public. During the early years, the United States Air Force and the CIA controlled the secret of the aliens. The CIA was originally formed by presidential executive order for the express purpose of dealing with the alien situation. The live alien who had been found wandering in the desert after the 1947 Roswell crash was designated an extraterrestrial biological entity, EB, for short. EB had a tendency to lie and would give answers only to questions he desired to answer. Eventually, after the first year, EB began to open up. Then in 1951, EB became ill. American doctors had no idea how to deal with EB medically because his system was chlorophyll-based and he processed food into energy much the same way plants do. On June 2, 1952, EB died. The movie E.T. is based on the story of EB. In an attempt to save EB and to gain favor with his technologically superior race, the United States began broadcasting a call for help into the vast regions of space. President Truman had been keeping America's allies, including the Soviet Union, informed of the developing alien problem in case the aliens turned out to be a threat to the human race. During Dwight Eisenhower's first year in office, 1953, at least 10 more discs were recovered, along with 26 dead and 4 live aliens. Eisenhower did not reveal this secret to Congress. Instead, he turned to his friend and fellow member of the Council on Foreign Relations, Nelson Rockefeller. Eisenhower and Rockefeller began secretly planning a covert group to supervise the alien situation. This group became known as Majestic 12, or MJ-12. In 1953, astronomers discovered large objects in space that were moving toward the Earth. At first it was believed they were asteroids, but later evidence proved that the objects could only be spaceships. Project Cygna intercepted alien radio communications, and by using the binary language of computers, it was possible to arrange face-to-face contact with beings from another planet. The movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind is a fictionalized version of this event. An alien was left on Earth after that meeting as a pledge that they would return and formalize a treaty. This initial group of aliens was from Zeta Reticulum and has often been referred to as the Greys. They were small in stature, about 4 or 5 feet tall. They looked nothing like human beings of the Adam Cadman type but had big heads, almond-shaped eyes, and long arms. In the meantime, a race of humanoid aliens had landed at Homestead Air Force Base in Florida and had successfully communicated with the U.S. government. This group warned of an alien race that was orbiting the equator, mentioning both the Greys and a race from Orion with reptilian-looking heads and humanoid bodies. The advanced, positive, human-looking extraterrestrials offered to help humanity with all the existing technological and spiritual problems, but they had one requirement. They demanded that all nuclear weapons be dismantled and destroyed. The U.S. government refused. A third landing occurred at Edwards Air Force Base in 1954. The base was closed for 3 days and no one was allowed to enter or leave during that time. Eisenhower arranged to be in Palm Springs on vacation. On the appointed day he was spirited off to the base. The excuse given to the press was that he was visiting a dentist. 5 craft landed, and Eisenhower met with the aliens. All these landings were filmed. This alien group was again the Greys from Zeta Reticulum. A formal treaty between the alien nation and the United States government was signed, and the U.S. officially received its first ambassador from outer space, who was the same being who had stayed behind after the first landing. He was called Omnipotent Highness Krill. The treaty basically stated that the aliens would not interfere in the affairs of the United States, and the U.S. would not interfere in their affairs. The U.S. agreed to keep their presence on Earth a secret. They agreed to furnish the U.S. with advanced technological information, and they promised not to enter into a treaty with any other nation on Earth. They were permitted to abduct humans on a limited and periodic basis for the purposes of medical examination and the monitoring of development, with the stipulation that the humans would not be harmed, would be returned to their point of abduction, and would have no memory of the event. The Greys were supposed to furnish Majestic 12 with a list of all human contacts and abductees on a regular, scheduled basis. It was also agreed that each nation would receive the ambassador of the other for as long as the treaty remained in force. It was further agreed that the alien nation and the United States would exchange 16 citizens for the purpose of learning about each other. The alien guests would remain on Earth. The human guests would go to their planet and return, and then an exchange would take place. This was reenacted in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It was also agreed that bases would be constructed underground for the use of the alien nation, and that 2 bases would be constructed for joint use of the alien nation and the United States government. Exchange of technology would occur in the jointly occupied bases. The bases would be constructed under the Indian Reservation in the Four Corners area of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona, and in the Mojave Desert near Yucca, California. A secret military fund was put together to build 75 deep underground facilities. The excuse was that they were needed in case of nuclear war. By 1955 it had become obvious that the aliens had deceived Eisenhower and broken the treaty. The secret government had basically sold out the American people without their permission, and in addition, abductions were occurring at hundreds of times the rate agreed upon. Records of them were not being provided. Animal mutilations were occurring all over the country, and there were reports of human mutilations occasionally happening also, although that was much rarer. It was also suspected that not all abductees had been returned. The Soviet Union was suspected of interacting with the Greys, and that later proved to be true. The Greys were using humans and animals as a source of glandular secretions, enzymes, hormones, and blood plasma, and for genetic experiments. The aliens said that it was necessary for their survival. They stated that their genetic structure had deteriorated and that they were no longer able to reproduce. They said that if they were unable to improve their genetic structure, their race would soon cease to exist. I believe this is true. The Greys were also found to be impregnating human females and somehow causing an early termination of the pregnancies to secure a crossbred infant. They were also implanting humans with both mechanical and non-mechanical devices for biological monitoring and tracking purposes. It is hard to believe that the United States government has provided these clearly selfish beings with underground military bases all over the country. In some material I obtained called the Dulce Papers, it is said that over 18,000 Greys live at the Dulce, New Mexico, base alone. These papers say that the Greys and the reptilian beings are in league with each other. Some of the technology on these bases was provided by the Greys and is way beyond the understanding of the United States government. There are apparently 7 levels or more, with each deeper level requiring a higher security clearance. In levels 6 and 7 there are apparently nightmarish Frankenstein-type experiments going on in the mixing of human and animal genetics. Some reports of the things going on there are too disturbing to mention in this book. Needless to say, what is occurring is not in harmony with God's divine plan. As time has gone on, the Greys and the reptilians have become more and more bold in doing whatever they please to serve their own purposes. The United States government has delineated over 70 species of aliens trying to make contact and has obtained and kept in its possession over 40 flying discs, many of which have been reproduced and are being tested and flown by the U.S. military. The government has in its possession more than 100 alien corpses. The basic plan of the Alternative 2 program was to build a vast network of underground cities and tunnels in which a select representation of all cultures and occupations could survive in case of a nuclear holocaust on Earth. Alternative 3 was also a joint Soviet Union-United States plan to set up a similar colony on Mars. A space probe landed on Mars and confirmed the existence of an environment that could support life. Not long afterward, the construction of a colony on Mars began in earnest. This information, obviously, was not released to the public. This work went on for many years, however, it is my understanding that the project has been abandoned. You might have seen some of the NASA pictures of Mars that show previous alien civilizations. There is a clear picture of pyramids and a sculpted face that, beyond the shadow of a doubt, have been created by some form of extraterrestrial intelligence. There was apparently an Alternative 1 plan that had to do with the idea of using nuclear devices to blast holes in the stratosphere to let the greenhouse heat and pollution escape. This plan was abandoned as ill-advised by the scientists in charge. Thank God. Apparently the secret government's plan included depopulating the Earth. As part of this plan there was the implementation of birth control and sterilization and the introduction of deadly microbes to slow population growth. The plague of AIDS was created by the United States government as a form of bacteriological warfare. It was purposely spread among specifically targeted populations including blacks, Hispanics, and homosexuals. One of the ways this was done was to lace hepatitis vaccines with the virus. It was a bacteriological warfare experiment done on the people of the United States that has gone out of control. Another one of the great lies of all time is that it is passed on primarily through sexual involvement. According to all the sources of information I have, this is a blatantly false lie, just as is the World Health Organization's statement saying that the AIDS virus came from a monkey in Africa. The AIDS virus can be passed in saliva. It is not a homosexual disease. Condoms don't always protect you because the AIDS virus is so infinitesimally small. It has been proven that the AIDS virus can live in an open-air petri dish for 10 to 14 days. One of the things killing people faster than the AIDS virus is the present treatment for the AIDS virus. From the information I have received, AZT, the common drug for the treatment of AIDS, is absolute poison to the human body and is killing people much faster than even AIDS itself. Lastly, the biggest cover-up of all is that there is no cure. People are being cured of AIDS. Hannah Kroger, an herbalist from Colorado, has come up with a cure for AIDS, and many other doctors dealing with energetic medicine and holistic medicine are having marvelous results, too. The most important thing I can say in this entire book I will say right now: you are not a victim of AIDS. You are not a victim of the Dark Brotherhood. You are not a victim of the Greys or the reptilian race. And you are not a victim of your mind, your emotions, your physical body, or anything else in God's infinite universe. You are God. God created you perfectly. God has given you personal power and free choice. The only effect anyone or anything can have on you is the effect you let it have on you. No alien can abduct you if you own your God-given power. The same principle applies across the board. You are not a victim of disease. There is no such thing as a contagious disease. This is another myth of the Dark Brotherhood, and it applies to AIDS. Also, there are only people with low resistance. If you eat well, exercise, get sunshine and fresh air, think right, spiritualize your emotions, and stay attuned to God and your own true identity as the Christ, the Buddha, the Atma, and the Eternal Self, then nothing can touch you, including AIDS. The secret government and politics. The one president who wasn't under the thumb of the secret government was John Kennedy. When he found out about the secret government's activities, he planned to blow the whistle on some of them. That is why he was assassinated. His murder was part of a widespread conspiracy of the secret government, as was Robert Kennedy's death. Again, the American people bought the cover-up. It is amazing to me how the secret government is able to get away with the things they do. One of the main ways the secret government has financed all its projects is with drug money. George Bush was one of the original people who was approached to help the CIA start its program of selling drugs. Bush's Secretary of State, James Baker, is even higher up on the secret government ladder than George Bush is. George Bush, as you know, had been head of the CIA. The fact that these men and the entire corrupt staff were voted out of office marks a great step forward for the American people and the beginning of the end for the Dark Brotherhood's reign of control, according to Dwal Cool. The secret government, or the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission, is currently in complete control of the alien technology this country has obtained and is also in complete control of the nation's economy. Eisenhower was apparently the last president to have had a complete overview of the alien presence. The extent of the secret government's control is evident in the fact that even the presidents of the United States are often not told what is going on. Succeeding presidents have been told only what Majestic 12 wanted them to know. These greedy servants of the Dark Brotherhood must be stopped. It is time for the American people to fully wake up to what's been going on and to reclaim their government. The people who run the government are supposed to be the servants of the American people, not servants of their own selfish interests. To take back the government, Americans must reclaim their power and use it to change the world. A great many spiritual people don't take enough responsibility politically for changing the earthly institutions of this world. God's divine plan does not intend for you to ascend to God and forget about the earth. God's divine plan is to make earth a heavenly place to live. That means changing the institutions and ego-oriented structures that have governed the planet. The time of living in a cave and meditating is over. This situation will obviously be helped by the coming of the Lord Maitreya and the externalization of the hierarchy that are now taking place. However, it is not for them to do it. It is for the people to do it, the common people. For they, in truth, are the externalization of the spiritual hierarchy. It is time for the people to claim power and take action, to support the president and elected representatives on all levels of government. If the people don't take an interest, then the only information they receive is from the greedy lobbyists whose only care is for their own particular interest groups. More spiritual politicians, lawyers, bankers, counselors, doctors, and real estate agents are absolutely essential so that they will take responsibility now. People who abdicate their power deserve what they get. Nikola Tesla. Another one of the great cover-ups of the secret government and the military-industrial complex was the inventions of Nikola Tesla. Tesla was one of the greatest inventors in the history of this planet. Recent channelings have said that he was actually an extraterrestrial who was brought here as a young child. The Tibetan Foundation channelings say he was a soul extension of the great cosmic being known as Melchizedek. He was raised in Yugoslavia and came to the United States in early adulthood. The secret government has systematically tried to strike his name from the history books because it is so frightened that the public will learn about his inventions. Nikola Tesla was actually a channel. Inventions would come into his mind in perfectly clear pictures and diagrams. He could create a prototype of his inventions right away, based on what appeared to him in his consciousness. In his biography it was said that he was in telepathic communication with extraterrestrials. He was definitely here on a mission of service. The problem was that he ran into the Illuminati and selfish, greedy men in the late 1800s and early 1900s who blocked the manifestation of his inventions. One of his inventions that would have revolutionized this world was a small antenna that would have been attached to the top of every house, office building, shop, and factory. This antenna would have supplied all necessary electricity without meters or wires of any kind. The antenna tapped the limitless universal supply of cosmic energy. Then people like J.P. Morgan told him to forget the idea because there would be no way to make money. Tesla was blocked at every turn. If this invention had been implemented, just think of the money people would have saved, the pollution that would have been avoided, and the absence of any need to fight wars in the Middle East over oil. This was far too threatening for the secret government, the military-industrial complex, and the greedy power elite. Tesla invented a machine that could place an energy beam, or a wall of light, around the United States that would prevent any other country from attacking. He also built a machine that could be used for interplanetary communication. He invented a method to counteract gravity. He invented technology that could make planes and battleships undetectable by radar and actually invisible. He invented a system of alternating electrical current that far surpassed Edison's inventions. But he was blocked again and again. It has been said Tesla created over 1,200 inventions. He designed what he called the Sphere, an aircraft that could have rivaled the jets of 1958. In 1891, Tesla built a cosmic ray engine, a free energy device to utilize the cosmic rays. Tesla actually contacted spaceships on his interplanetary communication device. With Tesla's inventions in operation, no TV towers, telephone poles, or wires would be required. His anti-war machine would have made Reagan's Star Wars project completely unnecessary. His anti-gravity machine would have allowed the U.S. to begin interplanetary travel, similar to that used by the UFOs that come to Earth. Nikola Tesla was a humanitarian and a selfless servant of humankind. Can you imagine what this world would be like if the governmental and industrial leaders had accepted his inventions? This is only one example of how the secret government and greedy industrialists prevent this world from evolving. What happened to Tesla is happening every day of the year to inventors, even now. You might hear news about some car that gets 200 miles to the gallon or runs on water or runs on solar energy, but the car and oil companies buy the patents and somehow prevent it from ever being produced. Do you wonder why more of this kind of information doesn't come out on TV? Well, guess who owns the 3 main television networks? You guessed right. Members of the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations. Anytime a controversial story surfaces, the powers that be go into action to stifle it. Other governmental cover-ups. One of the most disturbing governmental cover-ups is the systematic, conscious effort by the secret government, the Illuminati, and the Dark Brotherhood to poison the American people. First of all, the enormous amounts of canned, processed, and frozen foods that fill 90% of the supermarket shelves are made with chemicals and preservatives that are poisonous to the human body. Then on every street corner is a fast food restaurant serving food filled with the same chemicals that systematically and gradually poison the liver and weaken the immune system. Fresh produce is covered with pesticides. The air is polluted because of lack of strict environmental controls of cars and factories. A gaping hole has been ripped in the ozone layer, allowing ultraviolet rays from the sun to enter Earth's atmosphere, causing cells to mutate or die. Dental cavities are filled with mercury, which is an extraordinarily toxic substance to the human body. Usually within 10 or 15 years the fillings begin to crack and this toxic substance leaks into the system. In Los Angeles and probably in other cities they spray malathion to get rid of the medflea. It is such a toxic substance that the nights they spray, the entire population has to cover their cars because the malathion will actually take the paint off your car. Yet that incredible advocate for the American people, the FDA, says it is not harmful to the human physical body. A process like that systematically destroys the immune systems of everyone in the whole city. In many cities the water supply is fluoridated because they say it helps to prevent tooth decay in children, but fluorine is poisonous to the human body. They vaccinate children, which the average mother and father thinks is an incredible service the government is providing, but which, in fact, is just the opposite. Vaccinations break down the immune system. Then the children are fed all kinds of sugar at school, which continues the process of weakening the immune system. Then too, because inventions like Nikola Tesla's have not been used, there are incredible numbers of electrical power lines surrounding homes and in cities. They have a much more negative affect on the physical body than most people realize. People are getting serious illnesses from sitting in front of computers all day. Police officers are getting cancer from using the police radar guns. This is why there has been recent popularity of inventions like the Tesla watch, which protects an individual from these low-grade electromagnetic frequencies. There is an entire new field of technology called radionics or psychotronics, which uses machines to transmit currents of positive energy for healing purposes. Of course, it has been stifled by the government and the AMA, and instead, the technology is being used by the Pentagon and the war machines in both the United States and the Soviet Union for warfare purposes. They actually build gigantic towers to send negative electrical frequencies to destroy individuals and groups of people. This type of warfare is very insidious because the people being attacked cannot even see they are being attacked. This, unfortunately, is the warfare technology of the future that is being developed now. It must be stopped. The secret government and the Illuminati have no respect for the environment. All they care about is power and money, so they allow the environment to be systematically destroyed, which continues to compromise the health of the people of the world. The ocean, rivers, and lakes are polluted. The deforestation of the rainforests and of the forests in the United States is screwing up the oxygen balance on the planet. A greenhouse reaction is occurring because of the burning of fossil fuels. The minds, emotions, and bodies of children and adults are being poisoned by all the violence and low-life activity on television. The Federal Drug Administration has said it is okay to shoot radioactivity at fruits and vegetables to kill microorganisms. The only problem is that radiation is the single most poisonous substance to the human body in God's infinite universe. The secret government loves this idea, for it is a way for the Department of Energy to get rid of radioactive waste. To add insult to injury, it has been decreed by the FDA that irradiated food does not require labeling except in a few cases in which all they are required to do is print a sweet-looking flower symbol with the heading, Pico Wave. The Dark Brotherhood has such a hold on the health system that there was even legislation on the docket that would have taken away people's right to buy vitamins, minerals, and herbs in health food stores without a doctor's prescription. Another one of the major blunders of the FDA was allowing NutraSweet on the market. This low-calorie sweetener's scientific name is aspartame. Dr. Woodrow Monty, head of the Food Science and Nutrition Laboratory at Arizona State University, says about NutraSweet, "If you tried to design a food additive that could cause problems for humans, you'd have to try real hard to design one as bad as aspartame." He goes on to say, "This stuff is a drug but is being used as a food additive." As for the fluoridation of water, Dr. Robert Harris, professor of biochemistry of nutrition at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, says, "Fluorine is a toxic element, which has been shown to interfere with important processes in the body." Dr. Charles T. Betts, DDS, states, "Fluorine is a poison which is cumulative in the body, similar to radium. No antidote is known." In regard to all the health-related statements I have made in this chapter, I want to state that I don't claim to be a medical doctor, and for legal purposes I will say that these statements are just my personal opinion. You should consult your holistically oriented medical doctor in all cases. However, as a concerned citizen, I believe that if you research for yourself what I have been saying, you will find it all to be true. The secret government and the Illuminati have taken power and control because the people have given it to them. But the power of the people can be seen in American elections, in the end of communism in the Soviet Union and in Germany. People are waking up. The time is now. People must wake up from their apathy, laziness, and indolence. The first step is knowing the problem. It has been clearly stated. The second step is being part of the solution. What is the solution? The solution is manifold. Talk about these things with people, raise consciousness, support the right political leaders, write letters to congresspeople, vote, give money to causes, write books, give lectures, educate people, pray, affirm and visualize. Take action in any way you are guided to. No one can do everything, but God has given each of you a gift and piece of the puzzle only you can add to the picture. The Philadelphia Experiment. Another of the great cover-ups by the United States government was a secret military program called the Philadelphia Experiment, which was based on an invention by Nikola Tesla. It began as an attempt by the U.S. Navy to achieve the radar invisibility of its battleships during World War II. Some of the greatest scientific minds in the world were involved in this experiment, including Albert Einstein and Tesla. They did a test run on an empty battleship, and the ship not only became invisible to radar but actually disappeared from view completely. The U.S. Navy was very excited about this success and immediately wanted to put naval personnel on the ship for the next experiment. Nikola Tesla was dead set against this, and it turned out he was right. The ship disappeared, and when it returned, many of the crew members had burst into flames or had become frozen into the steel structures of the ship itself. Many of the other men went insane. The Navy was dealing with a technology it had no business dealing with yet. According to Al Bielek, one of the crew members, the ship was actually transported in time and space from Philadelphia to a grassy area on the Montauk Army Base on Long Island, New York, in the year 1983, 40 years in the future. Al Bielek's account states that a UFO craft was sucked along with the battleship and was later dismantled on Long Island. The Navy tried the experiment one more time, even after these disastrous results, however, this time again without personnel. Once again, the battleship Eldridge completely disappeared without even a waterline to mark its invisible presence. When it finally reappeared to physical vision, the ship was damaged and half of its equipment was missing. The powers that be decided that they had had enough of such experiments. I have included this account to just make you aware of some of the technologies the government is working with that are totally hidden from the American people. It is time for the American people to really know what is going on behind the scenes instead of being treated like sheep. The ability to make a gigantic battleship completely disappear, teleport through time and space, and return again is quite extraordinary. If this technology could ever be truly understood without harming the people involved, and if it could be placed in the hands of spiritual scientists rather than the military, some of the possibilities and potentials are mind-boggling. Many of the alien spacecraft are able to travel such long distances in such a short period of time using technologies such as this. The secret government and a staged alien attack. There is a scenario that many UFO researchers have uncovered and that Dwal Kul has confirmed to be a potential, a staged alien invasion. With the end of the Cold War and communism, the country has been left without an enemy. There is no longer a reason to build weapons. There is no longer a reason to let the CIA and FBI have free rein in their secret government activities. There is no longer a reason to take away rights and manipulate and control people as they have been doing. They no longer have a reason to keep people in fear, and if they can't maintain the fear level, they can't control people in the same way. The secret government is very frightened of the prospects of peace and is certainly afraid of a world of spiritual people involved in the New Age movement. Their areas of expertise are domination, control, manipulation, exploitation, and deceit, so one idea they are tossing around is to stage a fake alien invasion to create a new enemy. The panic that would be created would allow them to continue their illegal activities under the guise of a world crisis. This plan might be a little more difficult to implement with Bill Clinton and Al Gore in office. It would have been much easier with George Bush as president. It could be a last desperate attempt to stay in power, because on some level, I think they realize that the world is changing so fast they can no longer control it. I think they unconsciously realize that their reign of terror might soon be coming to an end. Do not underestimate their desperate attempts to remain in power. They murdered John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, and there has been an assassination attempt on every other president who has tried to cross them. A videotape I got from Bill Cooper clearly shows that the man driving the car John Kennedy was riding in is the man who killed Kennedy. It is as plain as day. You can see the gun, and you can see him shooting it. These are desperate men who will do anything to stay in power. Their influence is coming to an end as the new age approaches, but please be on the lookout for their deception. The secret government is also frightened of the good aliens, who are involved in at least 95% of all ET activity. They are quite aware of those beings' desire for a more loving and spiritual society free of nuclear weapons. They realize that if the positive extraterrestrials get the public's attention, it means the end of their power. That is another reason they are covering up what is really going on, and another reason they might try to stage a fake invasion, to try to stigmatize all alien contacts as being negative. There is no way the secret government can stay in power much longer. There are too many spiritual forces at work that make their destiny inevitable, but that doesn't mean you can be passive and wait until it happens. They will be removed when humanity collectively awakens to the need to eliminate their power. Vimus on negative aliens and the secret government. One of the finest channels on the planet was Janet McClure, the founder of the Tibetan Foundation. In my research I came across a channeling she did in Sedona, Arizona, on August 31, 1989, and which was published in a wonderful magazine called Sedona Journal of Emergence. In this article Vimus made some statements that confirmed information I had found elsewhere in my research. He confirmed that only about 5% of the extraterrestrials are causing problems. Of this 5%, many have been scientists who have no understanding of the emotional body. The type of invasion Earth has been experiencing, he said, has occurred 7 or 8 different times in the history of the planet. Humanity has always won out, usually because of help from the higher forces. He said another very interesting thing about the secret government and the Trilateral Commission. He said that 95 individuals are controlling the whole planet. They live all over the world and usually are connected to wealthy families of long standing. They are also connected to great banking conglomerates and large holding companies. These 95 people and their families are also connected into 35 other planets. What this means is that the Trilateral Commission exists not just on this planet, it is a galaxy-wide problem. The negative extraterrestrials are not very well united as a group, and that makes them a lot easier to deal with. The fact that they are run by their negative egos makes them very fragmented and most concerned with their own self-interests. That will be what causes their fall. There are only a couple of groups of them that are connected into any real power on Earth. Vimus refers to them as not black or white but more like gray in terms of their psychological makeup. What this means is that they have a whole range of mixed intentions. It is interesting that Vimus should use this expression, given that the beings from Zeta Reticulum are often referred to as the Greys. Vimus also confirmed that the CIA and its power structure do control the selling of drugs, and the money is used for the underground bases and the secret government's activities. Vimus also said that the negative extraterrestrial invasion didn't begin in 1947 when the alien craft crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. It has been going on for 500 years, and 1947 was just when the time the United States discovered actual proof. The Greys who are having all the health problems are sick because, as Vimus termed it, they are wearing the energy from another universe. Apparently you can't just change universes, because each universe has its own unique source and energy matrix. Vimus says that these beings could be helped by spiritual masters from the galactic core or by healers on Earth who allow masters from the galactic core to work through them to change the Greys' energy matrix. He has been amazed that they have been able to survive as long as they have. Vimus also said that there used to be a physical civilization on Mars, although it has now departed, and he confirmed that humans had a base on Mars, too. He also confirmed that the secret government and its henchmen actually kidnapped people and forced them to go to Mars to work. The information about Alternative 3 is all true. The colony has been dismantled in recent times, however. I would like to acknowledge Milton William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse, as the source of much of the information in this chapter. The book is fascinating, as are the 2 videotapes his organization has put out. Cooper is a true patriot who has done a tremendous service for humankind.